Hello and welcome back to another video tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. My name is Gary Miller and this is the third and, by God, I hope final tutorial for making a tree stump and texturing it in hexagon and bringing it into view so that we can render our modeled masterpiece. If you notice, because we use the cylinder projection, this is the orientation over here, the orientation of the UV map that the program created. And as we've got some confusion going on in here, and what it did is it took our tree stump, and as the tree stump comes over, comes across at the lip and comes back down, it projected that exact same characteristic here, and that's fine. It's just that it's going to be difficult to apply an image to this in its current state. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select those two. I'm going to loop them. Now, excuse me, I'll select the inner one, loop it, bring it up. Now there is some, now you'll be able to see, now there's some depth, some width, some thickness to our UV map to correspond with the actual thickness of the geometry on our model. So, and that's that. Now let's come down and select that inner edge. I'm going to loop that and I'll drag it up like that. Now if we start selecting some of these polygons on our UV map, it will start looking correct. They'll be correctly laid out. Yep, and all the way down. Okay, so now we've got this correctly laid out. Let's select all our points, Control A. Select all of them. And we need to bring it down a little bit. Now I'm really going to stretch it out. Bring it back in because the width of these faces here are stretched. Most of them are stretched a lot horizontally. So this is a quick way to adjust all of them at once. And now you see that this is starting to actually look pretty good. Let me deselect it. And there might be a few little areas that we need to doctor up, such as here. It's really stretched here, and that same stretched effect is not reflected here on our UV map. So I'll select those and just stretch it a little further. Notice the difference. The texture looks a little tighter already, and that looks good. Let's see where these are. These could probably be stretched a little tighter, and by golly, I've done something here and I'm not sure what. I have selected, I'll have to back up here. ZZ, Control Z. There we are. I guess I moved some surfaces, some faces around. Okay, now we've got this laid out like we want it to. Let's select all our edges, all our points, stretch it out, shrink it down to fit. Okay. Okay, these need to be widened a little bit more. And let's stretch these out. Yeah, these definitely need to be stretched out. There we are. That's looking good. And that's looking good. And that's looking good. Okay, I've selected all my faces. And now let's just scale this down to fit inside of our texture map. Now here's a little trick that at first I didn't think was possible with Hexagon, but as I've been playing around more with the UV functions of it, I find out it is possible. And that is, notice where our seam is. Where's our seam? Where did that go? Okay, let's spin around over here. One more. Oh. Okay, this seam here is where our UV map begins and ends. And you see this visible seam right down the front here. Well, that's not a big deal. If we were to bring this into Hexagon and render it, we could just display this tree trunk without displaying this seam. But I learned there's a little trick you can do. I'll select this seam. Now it only works if your texture image is a seamless image. It doesn't have borders on it. In other words, as the image ends here, it starts beginning again over here. It's a seamless texture map, and if you are interested in making some, there's a ton of tutorials that you can find on the internet, many of them at Renderosity and other 3D sites such as this. So if you have a non-repeating texture map, then to create a object that has a seamless texture on it, then just do this. Grab the outside edge, use your scaling tool you want to make this as straight as you possibly can. Bring it to the absolute far edge of your texture map, like that. Now come to the other side of your, well, I'm going to have to make this, I'm going to have to scale the whole thing up so that I don't have any, so that the thing is to scale. There we are. Okay, now I will grab this end, loop it, and I'm going to make it as straight as I can. Now I'll move this against the other far end of my texture map, and look at that, we've got a seamless border. Seamless border, I think that's the end. Nope, it's going to be this one. We have a seamless border on our texture. Look at that. You really wouldn't know. Oh, I guess I could move the edges in just a little bit on one of them. Let me zoom in. Okay, it's not that one, it's this one. This one, I guess, is hanging out just a little bit somewhere. Although it doesn't appear to be. Maybe it is on this side. Well, I'll move it in just a little bit, just to be sure. Okay, let's see where this line falls. This is our seam, and that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Let's do a quick little ambient occlusion render, and that's not bad. That is not bad at all. So this is our tree stump, and these are our tree rings, and we're going to export it I'm just going to export it onto my desktop and bring it into view. So I'm going to come up here. I've got all of them enabled. Come up here, export wavefront object, and I'll just save it onto my desktop and save. And here we are into view. Come down here, import, tree stump, okay. And it creates this little grain of rice. Let me enlarge it a little bit, move my camera, so I can see this thing. Let's render it to the screen, 6x8, and let's see what we've got. Okay, that looks pretty good. The bark looks a little cheesy, and here's what we're going to do about that. Double click on your bark texture under color and alpha, come down here to image scale, put in, I don't know, 0.3 for the X and Y axis, hit OK. Let's render again, and voila, look at that. That's some good looking bark texture. And let's zoom in and let's look at the edge of the lip here and see how that looks. That looks really good. You can see where the texture is coming up here and goes straight across, and of course it's going to come down the other side. You can see it here, comes across, here it comes across. You have a nice good, well textured piece of 3D model here, and that looks good. Notice when we brought this into view straight out of Hexagon, we didn't have to assign any materials to our object. When we saved it as a wavefront object file, that particular process creates two files, and those files are here they are right here. One of them is an OBJ file, that's the 3D model itself, and the second file is an MTL file. And the MTL file is a sister file that goes along with the object file, and that contains all the information regarding any materials that we have applied to it, any textures that we've applied to it. If we had created it in a program, I don't know, like Carrera, Cinema 4D that uses shaders as well as luminance, all the lighting and texture information would be contained in this MTL file, and so that when we imported it into our rendering program, all of that information would follow along with it. In fact, if you open up your MTL file with, say, Notepad, you can see here it has some illumination number. It has a bunch of other information. I don't know what it is. It shows you the name of the object, and it shows you where I got the image that I projected onto it, and it does the same thing for our stump. So that's what an MTL and an OBJ file are. And this is our tree stump modeled in Hexagon, rendered here in view, and it looks pretty good. I'd say that's definitely mission accomplished on this. Now, I purposely made it a low resolution model. It's only 546 polygons, because the fewer polygons, the easier it was to go through this tutorial and have you understand all the mechanics that were involved with the various processes that we use. So that's creating a tree stump here in Hexagon and rendering it in view. And thanks for watching here at Geekatplay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.